So for those of you that just joined, though, my name is Zach Barbetta. So this session is going to be a little bit different. I also don't tell the 10 o'clock session that this is my favorite one. This is actually where we show you what we talked a lot about at the 10 o'clock. So what are we going to show you? So we are going to listen to social media. So listen to customers in social media. And then we're going to use machine learning to understand what these customers are saying. And then after we understand what they're saying, we're going to send them personalized notification. So for those of you that were at the 10 o'clock, you heard me for about 40 minutes talk about real-time, personalized engagement. And now in the 11 o'clock, we're going to show you what this solution looks like. For those of you that want to play with this solution, try it out. It's on GitHub. We'll get you that information. You can deploy it with a CloudFormation template, so it's really easy to deploy. So don't worry if you can't follow along or you want to actually just kind of customize this to make it your own. So the agenda, I'm going to go very quickly through point one because it looks like most of the same folks, but I'll just let everyone know sort of what Pinpoint is. Then we're going to talk about the architecture. So I have an architecture slide where I'll just walk you through the 7 components of this solution. And again, it's 7 components, but we've put this into a CloudFormation so you don't have to manage all these different components yourself. Then we'll do the actual demo, so I'll show you what a push notification to my iPhone looks like based on a tweet I sent that was scored by machine learning, Amazon Comprehend. And then last, if we have time, we'll do trivia. I think trivia is always fun because it shows you some of the powers of Pinpoint, and also I get to give away a free Echo Dot, so I always like giving away stuff that I don't have to pay for. So what's the sort of the one question? So if you recall, I have this one question I want to set out, and this is the easily deployed ML solution. I emphasize easily because it is so difficult, and I feel like it's been talked about so much over the last years. Use ML, use ML. Okay, what does that mean? Like, and how do I do that? And how do I enable? I think really the most important question is how do I enable the teams, my teams, to do that themselves without having to loop in, you know, the data scientists, the engineering team. So we're going to talk about this easy deployment of a solution. For Pinpoint, let's see, was anyone not here for the 10 o'clock actually? Okay, a couple folks. So I'm going to go through this in just a couple minutes, but I want this to be interactive. So if something's not clear, just yell at me. Yes? Sure, digital user engagement. Yeah, sorry, I use my acronyms. Probably should explain that. So digital user engagement. So Pinpoint. So Pinpoint really has 5 components to the service. It's an analytics platform and it's an engagement platform. And the analytics platform is composed of 2 subparts, this collecting device data and this collecting event data. So that's the analytics component in an abbreviated version. And then the other component of Pinpoint is this whole digital user engagement. So okay, now that I've got all this analytic data on my customers, now that I've built the profiles, how do I engage? How do I segment? How do I automate? How do I interpret the metrics from these messages? So Amazon Pinpoint is this digital user engagement service, AWS service, that customers use for a variety of use cases. Some customers just want to send a receipt every time you buy something. Pinpoint enables that. Some customers want to set up 2-way SMS, so when their customers text, they respond back, and that's what we're going to demo with trivia today. We'll have a couple questions, and you could text the 2-way code, and I've already built the demo, so it'll respond back. So some customers use it that way. Other customers send real-time notifications based on live events. So your question earlier, the gentleman in the front said, what about like live event-based? Well, one of our larger customers, Hulu, does it for all their sports and programming. So when that sport event goes to overtime, that event triggers a campaign to a segment of people that really care. So Pinpoint covers a wide surface area. Because we heard from customers that said, customers told us we want less, we want to take our 10 tools that we use and we want to boil it down to 1 or 2. So what are we solving for today? Customers want to be heard, but how to scale. And so the demo is going to cover how do we scale using machine learning for customer engagement. And the customers want to be heard. I think that's just worth mentioning because when people tweet or use Yelp or post on Facebook, like why are they doing that? And it's because they want to be heard, right? They want to share their opinions about something with someone, right? They're not posting on Yelp just for the greater good of themselves, right? They're doing it to share an experience. So they want to be heard, but how can you as a company, as a brand, hear what they're saying, interpret it, and then engage programmatically? how can I do this cost effectively? The one point I always like to touch on here is it doesn't matter if you don't have an app, a website, or a company yet and you're here just learning, or if you're one of the biggest brands in the world. The pricing is all utility based. So you will only pay for the usage of this solution that you use. So if you send 10 emails or 10 billion emails and we handle workloads of both sizes, it's utility based. And then just one little plug is for the free tier. So Amazon Pinpoint has a very generous free tier, 1 million push notifications, 10,000 emails, 100 million events every month free. So there's no risk in trying. How can ML make inferences for me? So we'll show you that based on the AWS service Comprehend. And then what does the ideal customer experience look like? So I'm going to show you on the next slide how some of these customer experiences can be improved upon. So real world application. So I just have 4 quickly here. And so these are screenshots of push notifications. They're fictitious, but you can start to understand the value of this solution that we're presenting. So on the top left, you see influencer engagement. So this would be an example of someone who reaches out to your brand who's an influencer, who has a following. So let's say it's Tom Brady says something great about your company. You want to make sure that you engage with him correctly, right? He has a lot of influence. So this solution will allow you to programmatically do that just by looking at the metadata associated with whatever tweet or comment he posts. Real-time engagement, let's say you are having a flash sale and someone has some comments or questions. Being able to send that notification near instantaneously, that's powerful. The one on the bottom left is actually my favorite, the bad to good. So, one of our customers talks a lot about delays, right? It's an airline. They talk about how delays are very frustrating for people. They're very costly for the airline. And so they're trying to figure out how can they turn a bad situation into a good one. So when there is a delay, instead of the customer hearing about it over the intercom and trying to decipher what the person is saying and how long the delay is, maybe they can proactively reach out and say, hey, your flight's delayed, but we've already rebooked you. We've given you a $50 credit for lunch and upgraded you, yada, yada, yada. That's a bad to good situation. When a customer receives that notification, they can't be angry, right? They see it and they say, wow, you must really care about me. Last is customer support. A lot of people use social media for help, right? There's so many brands have these dedicated customer support channels. So how can you use this solution to help decrease the load and also create better experiences? So what exactly are we talking about today? So I'm just going to briefly walk through these 7 steps, and then I'm going to show you what that looks like. So starting on the left-hand side of step 1, we have a mobile app. So I've got a mobile app on my phone. Let me show you that. And it's right here. So it's this MobileCon mobile app. And so step 2 and 3 involves authenticating with a social channel. So in this case, it's Twitter, but it could be really any channel that you want. And let me expand this so people can see better. Great. So I'm going to log into this app, and it's going to ask me to authenticate with Twitter. And again, this could be Facebook, could be Gmail, Google, could be Amazon. And so here's my Twitter account, and the app is asking me to register more or less with my Twitter. So I'm going to go ahead and connect. And great, now I've authenticated with Twitter. So going back to this, what just happened? So in step 1, you saw my mobile app, this MobileCon. And then step 2 and 3, when I authenticate it with Twitter, what this solution is doing is it's saying, okay, I now have a Twitter handle, and I now have a device token. A device token is required for push notifications. So it's going to take these 2 pieces of information. Let me register within Amazon Pinpoint these 2 pieces of information and bind them together so I recognize which Twitter user is associated with which device token. So that's step 2, this update endpoint that you see. So that's going to Amazon Pinpoint. Amazon Pinpoint is acknowledging and understanding this user exists. So going to step 4 is where we're going to start an EC2 instance, and we're going to run a Python script on it. So I'll show you how to do that. Again, very simple, and this is all on GitHub and in CloudFormation template, so you don't have to do a lot of this heavy lifting. So when I'm running the Python script is essentially looking at a Twitter handle. So any Twitter handle you want. And it's taking those tweets in real time and sending them to two places. And that's step 5 and 6. So it's taking all these tweets, and in step 5, it's using Kinesis Firehose to do 2 things. 1, store all the data, so you can have it for search later. And 2, enabling Amazon Elasticsearch to visualize and search that data. So it's really storing the tweets that are coming into your brand. And you have to recognize, like, this is pretty interesting because brands receive thousands, if not millions, of tweets a day. And so Amazon Pinpoint, with this solution, can just store all that at a very cost-efficient price. The second place the stream is going is to Lambda. So for those of you not familiar with Lambda, Lambda essentially executes functions, and functions are written by you with certain commands. So I'll show you the Lambda, but what the Lambda is basically doing is saying, oh, I just got information about a tweet. Let me send it to Amazon Comprehend. Amazon Comprehend receives the tweet and says, great, this is the score for this tweet. Sends it back to Lambda, and Lambda says, okay, now that I know the score, positive, neutral, negative, let me tell Pinpoint what to do with that user. And so that's really the architecture at a high level. I'm going to show you this now, and then hopefully the demo works. We'll do a little trivia, and I'll take some questions. So let's go ahead and go to AWS. So this is, let's see, can everyone see all right? Great. So here is my EC2 instance. I want to connect to it, and here's where I get the single sign-on. So I've already done this. So I'm going to connect to this EC2 instance via my terminal. Okay, great. So if you recall, this is where we're going to run the Python script on EC2. So I'm just going to show you what that Python script looks like. Great. So it's pretty simple, and I'll show you how you can customize it to make it your own. But essentially right here is where you can define what Twitter handle you want to follow. So in this case, we're going to follow Hulu's Twitter handle. So just to take a step back here, think about if you are at Hulu and you're part of the marketing team. You will see in about 1 minute the hundreds of tweets they get every minute. How do you handle that? How do you reach out to the customers that most need help? How do you make sure that someone who's just about to delete the application or stop paying for the service receives the attention they need? That's a really tough problem to solve. And we think that this solution can help them and obviously other customers enable that. So this is the Python script, so we're going to run this. And then let's watch it. So let me zoom in. So every 2 seconds, if you see in the top left, every 2 seconds this will update. And I know this looks like just a bunch of garbled text, but what it is it's every tweet that's coming into Hulu right now. And it's all the metadata associated with that tweet. And so what does that mean? Okay, great, I see a bunch of scrolling text. Zach, like that's not that interesting to me. So let me just take a little snippet of it here. So let's just see if I can snag. So I'm just going to grab this and let's deconstruct it a little bit. All right, so let's do this. Search for Hulu. Okay, so here we have someone. Can anyone see the text? Great, okay. So let's see, we have a Twitter user who tweeted at the timeless Rue, the NBC timeless in Hulu. And it said accurate depiction of every time fandom every day between now and that still to be something something. So this is a random person tweet, and maybe Hulu wants to take no action on this. I don't know, that's for them to define. But they've collected this data now, and they've also collected the metadata associated with that. So what is some of that metadata? First, the reply count. Has anyone replied to this tweet? No. Why is that important? Well, maybe for replies that are 0, they don't take any action. But what if this reply count was 10,000? What if there was something like an outage and customers started tweeting more and more. And so they could trigger the Lambda to take action based on this reply count. There's other metadata, right? Favorite count. Maybe this is a really popular person, so they're getting a lot of favorites. Mentions, the screen name, the name of the individual, right? This is all public data. This is all what people provide when they tweet. And so that's just to show you sort of what a blob of information looks like. And this is just one blob, right? This is still running in the background. And so these tweets are coming in every 2 seconds. They're being refreshed. Okay, great. So now that we are collecting all this data, it goes back to really one of the points I made at the 10 o'clock session, which is all this data is great, but not if you can't do anything with it, right? Like, let's make some sense of this. So I want to show you what that looks like. So I'm in the AWS console, and I'm going to go to the Lambda console. So this is where we've defined what action to take on this tweets. So I'll show you the Lambda function down here. Zoom in a little bit. So as you can see, this Lambda function is 70 lines of code. So it's really not that difficult or that robust. And just a couple things to call out, because I want to show you what I mentioned in the architecture slide. So if you look at line 33, it's telling us what to do if the sentiment score is positive. So we're getting these tweets in, Amazon Comprehend is scoring them, and the Lambda is saying, if the response from the sentiment is positive, then call this send user message API. And send this message down here, the body of this message, to the user, the Twitter user that authenticated with the application. So let's do that. So let me go to my Twitter account. I don't know whose dog that is, but it looks like it's having a good day. All right. And let's go to my phone. Great. Yep, I'm on the 213 flight. Got it. Okay. So what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to show you a tweet, and hopefully, if the demo goes to plan, a automatic notification. So I'm going to tweet at Hulu, right? If you recall, that's what we're watching. I'm going to say something along the lines of, I love the sports programming and the push notifications. Keep it up. If you recall, they use Amazon Pinpoint for push notifications, so always good to give them a little love. Okay, so here's the screen on the left, and let's see if a tweet comes through. Great. So there's the push notification. So when I look at the push notification, I can see the body of the text that says, thanks for the feedback. Fill out this 2-question survey to get free Amazon gear. So obviously you can customize this however you'd like. But really the point of the demo here is that all happened programmatically. Right? I was able to send a push notification to this device with a 2-question survey based on a positive tweet. And so you can see how when you collect thousands and tens of thousands of those survey data from people over months and months and months, you can really start to understand your user base. And you're using machine learning to do that, right? Amazon Comprehend is sort of the brains behind that. So I want to show you what that looks like as well. So I'm going to go into the logs here. Go to monitoring, CloudWatch logs. So you can see the log. Let me zoom in. Too much. So what I'm looking for is the tweet I sent, and I can see of a variety of other tweets, right? Here's a positive one, here's neutral, here's neutral, here's neutral. So I'm looking for a very positive one. This is 99% positive. This might be me. Let's see. Actually, it doesn't look like it. It looks like it's I am Kristen Bell. I'm just hearing of this. I'm so happy. Looks like that was a very positive one. I don't think that's the real Kristen Bell, just because if I look at the metadata, the count and the replies are 0, and I can even see the followers and the retweets. So here's the retweet data. So I don't know where mine is. There's probably so many tweets coming through that it's already off this page. But really the point here is you see this sentiment score in every tweet receiving it. So this one received a positive of 99%, negative of 0.003, and then a neutral. And so that's happening on the back end. That's Amazon Comprehend. The last portion of this demo is back to Amazon Pinpoint. And so we go back to Amazon Pinpoint because if you recall on the architecture slide, let me go back to that, it's this step 7. So it's Amazon Pinpoint received the Twitter handle and the endpoint address in steps 1 and 2. But now in step 7, Pinpoint has knowledge of this. And I mention that because let's say you wanted to run a daily campaign to only the people that were really excited about your brand. But you wanted to set this up once and you want it to run automatically to a dynamic segment. Well, since Pinpoint has these endpoints and has these endpoint attributes, you could simply say, I'll show you just very quickly. You could say, I want everyone that is the sentiment is positive. And so what that's going to do is every day when you run this campaign, if you schedule it, it'll send it to all the new endpoints that just have a positive sentiment score. So let me show you, because this device on my phone should have a positive endpoint attribute because I had a positive tweet. And let's see if I get the notification. Looks like I didn't for some reason, so I'll have to look into that. But more or less, so that is the solution. That is using machine learning in a simplified form to ingest all tweets in social media, score them, store them, and then using Lambda to take action upon them. So we still have trivia coming up, but before I do that, I want to take any questions on this solution, and then we'll go into a little bit of trivia, and then we'll wrap it up. Any questions on this? Yeah. Yes. It is. Yeah, good question, and I'll just repeat it so everyone can hear it. The question was, are the device tokens specific to the mobile application, or are they more for the whole device? And the answer is the device tokens are specific to the app. So when I showed you the demo app and I authenticated with Twitter, that device token that's mapping to that Twitter handle, that device token is unique for that application. Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It could be. So I think what's unique about this solution is when you authenticate through a social channel, there's also the metadata you get with that user. So for example, if we switched out Twitter and had Facebook, I'd have to review Facebook's terms of service now, but you could still get sort of their interests, their friends, their whatever they have in their public profile. And so I think that data, decorating the endpoint with that data is really valuable. For instance, on Facebook, you see what pages they like. So if you want to send a message just to people that had a certain propensity to like certain pages, you would get that when they authenticate through the social channels. But yeah, you certainly use Cognito as well. I'd have to think a little bit more about what's like the best way to have that. Good question, though. Yeah, question in the back. Yeah, great question. It was, can you talk about the pricing of the solution? So I pause just because every AWS service here has its own pricing, which is good in the sense that everything's utility pricing, you pay for what you use. But when you're showing a solution like this, you really want, from what customers say, they want one price for like the solution. And I'll have to check because I don't want to be misquoted, but I think it's something along the lines of like $13 a month if you had 100,000 users. It's something very affordable because almost every AWS service has a free tier. I can speak specific to Pinpoints, but it's a million push notifications for Pinpoint, 100 million events, 10,000 emails. So that would cost you nothing if you had under 1 million users. But there's other components here or there. On GitHub, where we have all this posted, there's details there, and that link will be provided. But good question. It is affordable, though, from what we researched. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a great question. And it was, can I test my campaigns prior to sending to all my users? Yes, and there's really two approaches. You can use some of the tools to send that campaign to a smaller percentage of your user base. So you could say, send it to just 5% of my user base, and the 95% receive nothing. So that's one way you could test it. And then you could say, all right, did this 5% actually move at all relative to the control group, the 95% that received nothing? So that's one. The second way is during the campaign workflow, there's a button that allows you just to click Test Campaign. And when you click the Test Campaign button, you select a list of segments that you want to send it to as a test. And then that'll execute the campaign for you to visualize it and see it and send it to maybe teams that need to approve certain content before it goes live. So there's a variety of ways. Those are the two most frequently that customers use. Good question. I think there was another one. Yes. It is, and that's the value of the service. Amazon Pinpoint abstracts away the managing of device tokens, the updating of device tokens, and the attribute values for that device. Let's say I tweeted something positive, a attribute was attached to my endpoint positive. Let's say the next day I tweeted something negative. This solution in Pinpoint would update that profile to negative without you having to do any work. Yeah. Well, it's a great question. So I cover both SNS and Pinpoint, meaning that I think about both services and the customers that use them. SNS's pub/sub model is fantastic. It's worked for years, and it's very developer-friendly. Pinpoint's charter is to provide the tools and services and features for non-technical teams to have the power of SNS without having to deploy code or worry about the APIs and SDKs. So to answer your question directly, we are advocating that all customers onboard to Pinpoint, as that's where we're making the investment in the channels and the features. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you authenticate with APNS, whether you use P8 tokens or P12 certs and sandbox production, all that, it's difficult. So Pinpoint tries to make that easier, make it a one-time setup, sort of a browse and pick your file and then save it, and Pinpoint manages the rest. So yeah, there's a lot of heavy lifting that goes on behind the scenes. But again, like any AWS service, we want to do that hard work that you don't want to do, and we want to give you the tools that make your lives easier. Yes? Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question. It was managing opt-outs for certain campaigns. How does Pinpoint do it? How does it manage it? So it's dependent on the channel. And I mentioned channel, SMS, email, push, because there's different regulations for different channels. For example, for SMS, if you reply stop to an SMS, we're required by the government, and each country has a different regulation, but we're required to opt you out. And so that's, again, some of the heavy lifting that Pinpoint does is we can send an SMS to 216 countries, and we respect the regulations of each of those countries. For things like push notifications, you can't, from my understanding, you can't opt out of a campaign level, but you can certainly opt out at the OS level, and so you wouldn't receive any campaigns. There's ways to work around that in the sense that you can still send in-app push notifications, which target everyone because you don't necessarily opt out of those. The only caveat there is if someone's opted out of a push notification and then you start sending a lot of in-app pushes, they'll start to get annoyed because they've tried to tell you they don't want notifications. For email, you have to actually manage the opt-out process yourself. So those are the three major channels and how opt-out's managed. Yes? There is. That link will be coming after the presentation, I think, when they send you the survey and the slide deck, that'll be there. Yeah. If not, you could always just GitHub Pinpoint social sentiment, and that should pop up. But the link should be coming. Yes? It could. It could. Right at the end of the day, Lambda's binding to compute somewhere. So if you wanted to use the Lambda there, you certainly could. Yes, question back. I'm sorry, what was that? Yeah, sure. So the ML component here is Amazon Comprehend. So it's the AWS service that what its charter is in general terms is to take text and deconstruct it to understand the intent of the text. So what are the keywords? What is the tone? What's the subject? Is it active or passive? Is it positive or negative? Comprehend is using ML models to continually improve that interpretation of text. So when all these tweets come to Amazon Comprehend, what it's doing is it's saying, well, based on what I know, right, based on my models that it's built on, what do I think this tweet is saying? And so that's the ML component of this, is interpreting Twitter, in this demo, Twitter users' tweets so that Pinpoint can understand what type of message to send them. If it interprets the tweet incorrectly, how does that handle? Yeah, it's a good question. I think they provide a confidence score on when they return their sentiment analysis. So if you saw, it provides percentage, 99%, 80%. So I think that's how it lets the user decide what's the threshold for acceptable. So for example, you could set the Lambda to say, if the sentiment is positive and greater than 90%, send this notification. But if it's positive and it's greater than 60%, drop it on the floor. So Comprehend's going to provide you that sort of range of confidence that it has in any sort of text when it returns the sentiment score. The ML source code, what about it? I'm sorry? That's a good question. I don't know, but I assume Amazon Comprehend has the documentation on which type of ML models it's using and sort of the construct of those. But I can't answer that definitively. Actually, I don't know. Yeah, good questions.
Yes, in this case, this model, better to save that comprehend result to ES2 so we can analyze later.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's this is what I like about this solution is you can make it your own, right? You can do whatever you'd like with this. You can change out Twitter for different authentication. You can change out Comprehend for SageMaker. Right, I think that's sort of what's so nice. What I like about AWS is all the services, they're primitives, right? You define what you want to do. However, what's also nice about solution is some of the heavy work of stitching it all together is there in the CloudFormation template. So when you deploy it, you can just tweak it yourself, right? The Python script, you don't have to write it, it's there. Okay. Well, thanks for the questions. We'll do quick trivia, and you might be saying, well, why trivia? This is seems a little unorthodox, doing trivia after this demo. Well, the question for everyone here is, Pinpoint has a variety of tools, and one of them is bidirectional communication. So bidirectional, as the name implies, creating a conversation with your customer. So before this presentation, I simply put a couple keywords in, and I put a couple keyword responses in. And now I'll show you what trivia looks like. So if you want to participate, if you get all 4 questions right, I'll enter you into a drawing to win the dot. I'll let you know probably by next Tuesday the winner. And so this two-way SMS, so this is a long code. So Pinpoint has knowledge of this long code. I've provisioned it. It's in my account. And now I'll show you sort of how it works. So the first question is, in what year was Amazon Pinpoint released? If you want to participate, you can text 1 to this number or 2 to this number, and you have a 50-50 chance because there's only 2 options. And so while you guys are doing that, just a little bit of the back end on how it's working. So I've provisioned this long code, I've created the keywords, and I've created the keyword values. So everyone should be receiving automated responses. Even if you got it wrong, it should say, like, sorry, you got it wrong. And so what I'm doing is I'm also receiving the metadata back that you send to me. So when you send this back to Pinpoint, I'm getting your response, so I'll know if you got it right or wrong. And then I'm also getting your number, so I can let you know if you want. Yes? It was not, good question. It was not called anything else before Pinpoint. Pinpoint absorbed an AWS service that we deprecated, but Pinpoint was net new. Yeah, it's right away, and actually a good customer use case for this is one of the customers is a large telecom, and they send out millions of bills to people each month, right? We all get those, and on the bill they now have a few values. If you're interested in learning about your bill, type in 1. If you'd like to talk to customer service about changing plans, type in 2. And anyway, this very, very simple, unsophisticated solution has just totally reduced the volume of calls they're receiving that they have to triage out to the specific channels just because of simple keywords values. It's very simple, but sometimes simple wins. Question 2. So Pinpoint has 3 major components. What are they? Analytics, segmentation, and campaigns, and transactional messaging, or analytics, segmentation, campaigns, and Alexa notifications? A little bit of a trick question, but again, 50% chance. And I probably should have told you the answer to number 1 was 2016, as I'm sure everyone knew, because you either got it right and you were correct, or you got it wrong and you knew it was the other one. So the correct answer here is 3. So you can use Pinpoint for Alexa notifications. It's just not an out-of-the-box feature that's supported within the console. It's a little bit of a trick question as we didn't go into too much depth, but the correct answer we were looking for is 3. You didn't? Did anyone? Some people did. Interesting. Yeah? Huh. Maybe I'll have to look at my quota. Maybe I'm over my SMS quota. We'll find out in the next one if people can get responses. So the next question is, Pinpoint has a flat per user monthly fee. Let me know if everyone's getting notifications. So does Amazon Pinpoint have a flat per monthly fee? Interesting. Really? Let's do a little experiment. So if you didn't receive the notification and you're on a non-Apple device, can you raise your hand? Okay, if you didn't receive the notification and you're on an Apple device, can you raise your hand? Huh. That's really interesting. Yeah. Okay, well, for the prize, I'll just have to put everyone in the random drawing because interesting. So Apple SMS seems to. I'm going to blame this one on Apple. Maybe something's going on in API. All right, the answer here is no. Right, like most, I think every AWS service, utility pricing. We pride ourselves on that because you should only pay for what you use. So that's the answer there. And then question 4, a full integration with ML services, enabling personalization and recommendations. I apologize for that. I'm interested to dig into the logs and see what happened. Let me try my device. I'm getting it. Is everyone getting it or no? Huh. Yeah, well, it definitely wasn't AWS, so I'm going to blame Apple. Huh. Here's the great things about demos. Now you'll remember. You'll say, yeah, I was at a demo today and it failed for me. Okay, well, the answer here is it does not offer this full integration. It's something we're working towards, and this solution we presented is us getting closer. But what our aspiration is to enable you to come to Pinpoint and not have to worry about any other service, and for us to provide this out-of-the-box full integration for personalized recommendations using ML models. And we'll get there, right? Our roadmap's built off what you say, and a lot of folks have told us this is something they need. Anyway, that's it for me. Thanks for spending the first couple hours of your Thursday. I had a really good time. I always enjoy doing this. Yes, well, question in the back. How does it respond? So before the presentation, I defined keywords. Keywords were those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then values associated with those keywords. So when Pinpoint receives a response back, it has your phone number, the origination number, and the value. And if the value is the keyword, then it knows to fire an SMS back to the origination number with the keyword response. Anyway, I know I'm between lunch is just me, so I'll get out of here and let you guys eat. So thanks again for the time. Really have a great weekend.